Yesterday, of course, I sat up here as the cop, and now I'd like to tell you a little bit about Andy as the father. You can imagine that this is a parent's worst nightmare, that to wake up one day and then have someone tell you that your child has been killed and stand over an empty grave and bury that child. I think we all have that fear. It's a terrible fear. Parents aren't supposed to bury their children. Children are supposed to grow up and bury their parents. And for that, I'm deeply sorry for what my son has done. And I know it's not much consolation to their parents out there, but their children did not die with disgrace or dishonor. No guilt or no shame. But the parent's worst nightmare has another side to it also. After I talked with Andy and learned that information, my worst nightmare came true. Something I never dreamed would ever happen, could ever happen. That my son was responsible for that. And since I'm in law enforcement, it's doubly hard for me. And for a lot of practical purposes, my son is as dead as their children are. Because I know that whatever happens as a result of the sentence that's imposed, he's taken from me. Whether it's life imprisonment or the death penalty, he's gone from me also. But he lives in disgrace and dishonor and shame and blame. And I live there too. And the rest of his family lives there also. In 1968, when I was sworn in as an FBI agent, I was very proud of that, and my family was proud of that. And as my children were small and were growing up, we had kind of a tradition or a little ritual. In the morning I'd get ready and go to work, and the kids would come and say, "Where are you going, Daddy? What are you going to do?" And I'd always tell them, "I'm going out to make the streets of America safe for little children and pretty women and old dogs." Basically, that's the function, that's the job of all law enforcement officers, whether they're a special agent with the FBI, a prosecutor, a sheriff, a judge, a deputy. Our job is to make the streets of America safe for little children and pretty women and old dogs. And I want to tell the members of the Hendrickson and Cartagena family that I failed that mission to them. I definitely failed it to Grant and Michelle, and I failed it to my son. Of all the people in the world I should have been able to protect, I should have been able to protect my own son from the evil, but I didn't do that. I don't know how it happened. I was busy looking out the front door for evil, and somehow it came in the back door and consumed my son. And I failed you people, because you are the citizens. When I raised my hand and said, "I do solemnly swear that I will defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic," I never realized that the biggest enemy would be so domestic that he would be bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. It's my worst nightmare, and it's compounded. Andy is a quiet boy. He's a loner. He doesn't share much. That information that witnesses testified about the other day, that he told them all that could not happen. You don't know that boy. He would not tell someone that he knew a week about all of this. But he trusted me, and he believed in me. And even though I had to extract it out of him a little bit at a time, I was the only one that could get that out of him. he believed in me. And I told him, I said, Andy, let's do the right thing. We can do the right thing. And then I took what he confided to me. Before the sun even rose up, I took what he trusted to me, and I went and told someone, and I knew that I was probably casting his fate, that it would be my words that would send him to the electric chair. For a father, that's real hard. Mr. Floyd got up and said he was doing this because he owed it to Grant and Michelle. I owe that same debt to them. And it's very difficult to have to offer up your son to pay that debt. On the badge of the FBI, there's a picture of Lady Justice. It's a picture of a woman that's blindfolded. She has a sword in one hand and a pair of scales in the other hand. And we in law enforcement are obligated to serve Lady Justice. The blindfold means that she is blind to people of authority or prestige. I had people say all along, well, he's the son of an FBI agent. He'll never go to trial. They'll never do anything to him. He'll get him off. I want you to know that justice is working here today. The sword represents punishment, and Lady Justice is authorized to administer punishment. We're all servants here. The judge is a servant. Defense attorneys are servants. The prosecutor, the law enforcement, the witnesses that came up here, we're all servants. But the most important servants are you people sitting in the jury box, because you are the direct representative for Lady Justice. You hold the sword and you hold the scales, and you get to punish and you get to weigh and to measure pieces of circumstantial evidence to create probably enough reasonable doubt.